Digital 410 Productions proudly presents the What's in Your Head podcast.
Digitized live from the ACT Computer Studios in Cape Coral, Florida, it's the What's in Your Head podcast with your hosts Gordon and Don Abernathy.
What's up, OG5? It's another Monday, and we're here live. I'm tired as all get out. I just came from a 3-year-old's birthday party. How's that for kicking off a podcast night? Trying to organize shows, trying to organize guests. It's been a long work day, but hey, you can't complain about free cake and 3-year-olds. Gordon, how you doing tonight?
Actually, I think you could probably complain a lot about free cake and 3-year-olds.
Well, if you do, you're kind of a jerk and an ass, are we not? I mean, you can't complain about your 3-year-old niece.
I'm just saying, there's somebody out there that would, right? I'm doing okay.
Speaking of somebody out there that could, David Post. You may know him on TikTok. If not, you need to go follow him on TikTok. He is on TikTok. His TikTok handle is at NextOutpost. And Mr. David Post joins us tonight because he's on a very interesting and well-intended, awesome plan, which I have a lot of questions about. But without any more further ado, Mr. Post, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm good. Very well tonight.
Tonight?
For having me.
Yeah. So I found you on TikTok a few days ago, maybe like a week ago, and you have decided to travel, to walk across the country to raise money for St. Jude. And I guess my first question is how did this whole adventure idea come upon you, and what's motivating you to do it, sir?
Well, honestly, maybe walking wasn't like the best decision now that I'm out here. But first of all, I've always wanted to travel for years, and there's been a set of circumstances in my life where, my car got totaled, I was going to get laid off, just a whole bunch of stuff that, just happened to me that gave me the opportunity to start this. And I wanted to do it for a good cause. So, the best charity I knew, the one that's actually, meant something to me was St. Jude. So I'm trying to spread the word and, support them as much as I can.
So basically you took a circumstance that was out of your control and decided to take it and take back control over it and do it for a good thing.
Yep. Lemons to lemonade.
Yeah, there you go. Now, you were talking about how walking may not have been the first choice or the best choice. Prior to doing this, were you into fitness at any level?
Oh, yeah. I work out pretty regularly. I'm pretty active. Like, my job was very physically intensive, too. So, I go out hiking. So I felt as though I could do it,
Where was your starting destination? What state did you start off in?
In Connecticut. I'm actually from Meriden, Connecticut.
Nice.
Right in the center of the state.
And where is your final destination?
It's going to be, the Pacific Ocean.
Well, I get that, but are we talking Washington State, Northern California, Southern California?
Southern California.
Have you ever been to Southern California?
I have not been west of the Hudson River until recently.
Now, with your plan, I guess, how many months do you think it's going to take you? Well,
at first I thought it was going to be 4 to 6, and now that I'm out here, I'm thinking it's going to be a little bit longer than that.
It definitely will. I know there was a group who just did it. It took them about 11 months, but I figure where you might have the advantage is they had 2 people plus 3 dogs.
Exactly,
and I figure you by yourself, you can get up and go. And, you can move at your own pace. You're not worrying about the dogs. You're not worrying about, traffic and having other people to keep up with you. So I figure maintaining your own pace, you'd probably get it done quicker than they did.
Yeah, I would think that
I'm thinking.
Sniffing dogs would double the time.
Yeah, because you got to, make sure that they're fed, and, give them water, all that.
And they're going to stop at every tree.
I don't even have to take care of myself, you know what I mean? I can just keep walking.
Well, even more importantly, though, depending on the size of the dog, one of your strides is like 6 of theirs, and you have shoes on and they don't. Now, this particular couple had their dogs in a stroller, but once again, now you're pushing a stroller, the wheels only move so fast, and so all that stuff adds up.
Yep.
Now, I saw some interesting video, looked like you were kind of doing some creek walking and going through the woods. Are you maintaining, trying to go along like major U.S. route, like highway routes, or are you just going where your feet take you?
Yeah, I'm mostly trying to go through the U.S. routes, but honestly, I put my route through Google Maps, and that's what's that's what's taking me in my path. So, but mostly it is just the U.S. routes.
Now, you and we talked a little briefly before you came on the show, and one of the questions I have, just for you, a little background that I do is I'm a World War II reenactor, and so probably about 3 to 4 times a summer I'm sleeping under a 80-year-old piece of canvas on the grass, basically in a tent, just anywhere set up. And there's some nights, especially after work or whatever, you're setting up, and there's sometimes you're like, oh, I'd rather be sleeping at home in my bed, or you just have different thoughts. The first night you set out on this adventure. Now, I know from watching some of your videos, you do have a tent, and then like tonight, you found yourself in an Airbnb, which we'll get to momentarily. But the first day, how many miles did you put in on your first day?
My first day, I put in about 20. Is probably my weakest day, honestly. Well, as far as the getting down and sleeping, I had no issues at all. I just set up the tent, and just lay down and went to sleep. I was tired at the end of it, so.
So I guess go ahead, Gordon.
How heavy of a pack are you carrying?
My pack is around 50 pounds.
That's a lot of huffing.
Yeah.
Well, and when you kind of answered my question. When you're so exhausted, you don't have the luxury to think about, oh man, I don't want to be here. You're just more worried about getting to sleep. But the other side of that, though, is no matter how exhausted you are, depending on, obviously when you're hiking across country, you're limited on your necessities and your luxuries. You're lucky if you have a yoga mat. And if you don't, because I've been there many times, as tired as you are, about 4 or 5 hours into it, every little rock, every little root, every little lump on that ground, it'll wake you up, and you'll spend like the last 3 hours just tossing and turning like, oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even I've got an air mattress, 3 inches thick, and it works wonders, and I sleep great. But like sometimes when I'm on top of a rock or something, you can definitely still feel it.
Have you noticed since you started doing this that there's something about sleeping outside, even on a bad night where you're fighting a rock or your air mattress isn't inflated all the way? There's just something about sleeping outdoors and even on the ground. It rejuvenates you. Just unplugging from technology, even if you're on your phone before you go to bed. Just something about sleeping outdoors and the oxygen from the plants, the dew in the morning. It brings you back to a place that a lot of people haven't been in a long time, because most of us spend all our time sleeping in, air conditioning or heating if it's the winter time, and luxury of beds and showers and all that. There's just something about being outdoors all day long. It just kind of resets you. Have you experienced that at all?
Yeah, it's very natural to be outdoors, and it feels good. Like even just the smells. It does revigorate you. Reinvigorate you.
Connects us to our primitive nature.
Yes, I agree.
Where we come from.
Mm-hmm.
How has the random person on the street taken to you and your story? And for example, I know from watching one of your videos, you came across a church. You're kind of needing to charge your equipment, and they said, "Have at it. Anything you need."
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Has it
so far?
Go ahead.
So far, like everyone that I've come in contact with has been wonderful. Like everyone asks me if I need anything, or and even if they don't bother me. Even if I'm doing something stupid, like outside of some business, just laying down or something, no one gives me any issues, no hassles, and just I don't know, just the generosity that other people give me is I don't know, it just feels great.
Now, don't let me put words in your mouth, but I would think as a social experiment, living is what you're doing, basically rambling from town to town, making your own way under your own power, and just meeting random strangers. Because you're by yourself, and as your TikTok audience builds, I'm sure people will meet you along your route. But right now you're basically relying off of yourself and strangers. Is it me, or is everyday life nothing like the showing in the news and on TV?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's always so much worse out on the news. Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
and when I'm out here, I can't see that there's this much bad in the world. It's like I don't see it at all.
Yeah, and when you take time away from the news, and I've done so, and Gordon's done so, and then you come back and you're watching it, like, where are they shooting this? Because I'm not seeing this in the representation of my real life. All the stuff that says going on, between, groups and people and this and that, I don't experience it. Where are these little pockets that they're setting these cameras up that they want the rest of the world to think the United States is this rampant anarchy and people wanting to hurt each other because we all have different opinions and ideologies? It just, in real life, it's not the case. And it's probably refreshing, I would assume, just to turn off that crap and just walk and just experience America as it truly is.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I wanted, is to experience America, like the good and the bad. And like I was telling my live stream today, a little earlier, was they were talking about, be careful in the South because, just because you're a person of color,
sure.
They won't like you or something. And I'm sitting here like, I'm 27 years old, and ever in my life have I ever experienced anything because of the color of my skin. But I do live in New England, Connecticut, so I don't know.
And that's a good question too. And I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll just come out and ask you. In your community, in the African American community, do any of your friends, family members, or anybody express the concerns that the media want the rest of the world to think that those concerns are being expressed in that community? Or is it just like, or are you like us, like, where are they coming up with this shit?
Yeah, it's not at all in my family or any of the people that I know. We don't listen to all that crap.
Yeah, it's just
hyped up, right?
Yeah,
I agree. Hyped up to make money. It's insane.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, I'm in Florida. You can't get more dirty South than here. And I go to small towns, and I have a Hispanic daughter. I don't experience any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's just it's so confusing to me how the media across the board, it's just they want everybody to think that this big division's going on, and no one sees it.
They're driving.
At least I don't see it.
Yeah. Well, and according to their rules, if anybody should see it out of the three of us, it would be you, and especially someone who's walking from town to town, like it's probably before your time, but like Kane on
that's exactly what I was
Kung
thinking.
Fu. Back in the 70s, there was a show. What the
Carradine.
hell? Yeah, Carradine, who is actually he's an Anglo. He played the role of a Japanese kung fu master who traveled from town to town in the 70s. And in every episode, there's some town he wants to kick his ass, and he has to beat everybody's ass in the entire town, even though he's not looking for trouble. And so here you are traveling like Kane, and according to the world, you're supposed to be experiencing all the problems with the townies. And like you said, everybody's welcome and open and saying, "Hey, charge your phone, do what you got to do."
Yeah, which is really nice. And another thing is, I'm in Pennsylvania right now, and not long ago I was walking, and I went past this family who were just in the backyard, doing some target practice. Didn't think anything of it or nothing, But me coming from Connecticut, we don't have that around there, So, but it was really cool, and I was happy to see it too, because I was like, yeah, that's freedom, I wished more people, were able to just sit in their backyards, shoot some guns and just chill,
And the fact that you said their families out there, that is the most important thing. And Gordon and I, we're both brothers, and we're from Kentucky originally. And I think our stepdad, who was a Marine back in the day, I mean, he taught us how to shoot shotguns. Me, my mom, and my brother, we would sit out in front of her front yard in Kentucky shooting pistols. It was brought into our lives early, not just for the sake of shooting guns, but the more importantly was the gun safety. And that's the biggest problem nowadays. Everybody's like, the biggest problem is guns. No, the biggest problem is lack of gun safety, lack of education.
Yeah, education is the biggest thing. I think that we, as Americans, all of our kids should learn it in school. Well, maybe not
and we did
schools nowadays, but I don't know.
When I was in elementary school, there was gun safety classes. They didn't have a gun there, but basically the officer who handled wildlife, the wildlife guy would come in and he would discuss how to handle them, what happens if you see one all the way down the road. And I think that is something that's missed. Instead, it's preaching fear. We got to be afraid of this, and I think that's the biggest problem right now. And I want to be off this kind of quick because I'm just so tired of it. But it's the victimhood nature that's going on out there. It's you gotta you got to do your own thing. I was robbed at gunpoint once, and then our house was broken in 2016. I looked at my wife and said, no more. I do not like being made to feel like a victim. So, we fortified and we took some classes and all that and got ourselves where we need to be.
And to Gordon's previous point, 20 short years before him being in school, when my father was in school, they actually had rifle classes in high school. I was in middle school in the 90s in Ohio. Now, they had gotten rid of it from the boys because, boys are bad, but they still had girls' archery class and gym class. We weren't allowed to touch it, but the girls were still allowed to shoot bow and arrows, and this was in the suburbs of Columbus. But they hadn't phased it out yet, so there was still a little bit of reminiscence in the curriculum at that time, in the 90s, at least for the females. They were still shooting bow and arrow in middle school. We weren't allowed to, but they were.
I think it'd be a step in the right direction if we did have more education and, because I do feel that people need to be able to defend themselves. You need to be able to rely on yourself, take responsibility. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, we have more weapons in the community than we did back in the 1800s and early 1900s. And clearly, they're more sophisticated. But my point being is, everybody says, well, it's all these children around guns, kids have access to guns. When we had settlers traveling across to claim their land, all the farmers had shotguns. Yeah. Granted, there may have been black powder or what have you, but all their kids were around them. Once again, they were taught. They were educated. They weren't toys. These were used for defense and for hunting and yada, yada, yada. And so you can say, well, we have more guns, which we do, but the population was less back then. So it may have been somewhat equal. But the fact is, it all comes down to education.
And I think being outside, what David's doing, it's going to keep you in a better headspace mentally,
How far south are you planning on coming on your route?
I think the southernmost that I'll be is probably in Texas.
Okay.
Maybe Dallas. Oh, and actually, no, El Paso will probably be the closest.
But
so I do want to go to the border just to see it because, no one else wants to go there and look at what's going on. So I'd like to see it with my own eyes.
You're going from Pennsylvania to Ohio next?
Ohio next, yeah.
Then Indiana?
We're heading southwest.
Okay.
Southwest.
Yeah, because I was thinking it wouldn't be conducive for your travel time to go as low as Tennessee and Kentucky because there's just way too many damn mountains and valleys, and that would slow you down dramatically. But yeah, Pennsylvania.
You would understand real quick when your grandparents said I walked 10 miles to school uphill both ways.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, Ohio to Indiana, then to Illinois, and then into Texas. Texas is going to be a long haul.
Oh, yeah. I think that's what I'm the most worried about, honestly, because everything east of Texas is civilization and everything on the other side is like desert and desolate.
Yeah, get your water packed, get yourself
well, he has you do have purification kits and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, good.
Yeah, because I've driven across country 3 or 4 times. I haven't walked it. You're crazier than I am. But yeah, once you get outside of Texas, then coming up next is the Badlands, and it's just going to get hotter and hotter.
Oh, yeah.
Gordon lives out in Vegas. I'm down in Florida, but yeah, there may be a little when you get to the around Texas, you're going to maybe say, I wish I would have planned this a few months earlier because you're going to be out there dead nights of summertime. Yep.
So, I'm thinking it's gonna be
it'll be fall.
Maybe around like September, October.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
Maybe around that time. So it'll be maybe 5 degrees cooler. I don't know.
It's a dry heat. So you had an interesting thing happen with your Airbnb tonight, which you shared on your TikTok. Why don't you go ahead and share that with our audience so they can enjoy the beautifulness of humility and humanity and what you're experiencing there.
Yeah, well, I got to my Airbnb, everything's cool. I just walked in, like you put in the code or whatever. And I was doing my thing, washing some clothes, taking a shower and all that. And then I went outside to put some stuff out to dry. Mm-hmm. And I got to see my host. His name is Earl. He seems like he's a really nice guy, he was telling me he rents this place out, every so often, and He's got his own like tools store he's got, and I was telling him about my journey and what I've been doing, and like I guess he was just so taken by my journey that he literally looked me in the eye, gave me a handshake, and then went into his pocket, grabbed his wallet, and handed me back the money that I paid for the Airbnb.
Wow, that's amazing.
I was so overwhelmed. Like I there's like no words to describe that, like that feeling. Like that's too much for me. Like it was too much.
Has any of the local media on your route picked up on your story and done any interviews with you or anything yet?
No local media, but back in my home state, I did do an interview on the news a few days ago for when I was at the church. But no local media as I've been going through.
Now I know your first day you covered 20 miles. How many miles are you into it now? Have you been keeping track?
I am about 180 miles right now.
Are you using any tracking apps like Strava or anything?
No, I don't have time for that.
Well, because I was going to say Strava's free.
To charge.
Well, it would burn your
exactly.
batteries down. I was going to say Strava's free, and you could just start as you walk, and it would literally track everything. But that would burn your battery down.
Yeah.
What?
How are you collecting the funds for this for St. Jude?
GoFundMe.
Yeah, GoFundMe.
Is GoFundMe. Excellent.
Yeah.
And now I went on your GoFundMe, and it just looks like it's GoFundMe, and they just search for Walk Across America for St. Jude, or they search your name. What's the easiest way for people to find it?
Walk Across America for St. Jude, and then you put David Post, and you should find it.
Okay. And I know your goal is $50,000 you're trying to raise?
Yes.
And people are donating. I think I was looking earlier. You definitely got some cash in there right now, so and you're relatively still fresh into this. I mean, once again,
I know, which is surprising because I put 50,000 thinking like, oh, I'll probably reach it by the end of this.
Yeah.
But with support and everyone who wants to help St. Jude's and everything that they do, I guess they really, really want to support this, and I'm really glad for that because this is what this whole thing is about.
Yeah, and St. Jude is a great, great cause. I mean, the work they do. Well, first and foremost, the cases they see, because they're all children, it's just those doctors and the people who put that on are just, well, not to sound corny, but they are in fact saints.
Yes, exactly.
It's amazing. I got to tell you, Caleb and Jacob. You know who I'm talking about? Caleb and Jacob, the spokesperson for St. Jude's, those kids on the commercials.
Oh,
I think. I'm trying to remember. I think Jacob's the new one. Caleb's been around forever. And the first time I saw Caleb on there, he looked a lot younger than he actually is. Now, and I worked in radio for 5.5 years. And, so I would look up to a lot of the guys who do voiceover work, commercial work. And I saw little Caleb coming out there, or little Jacob. I was blown away by his on-screen presence, his voiceover work. And now the new one, sadly, because that is, they work with children. Caleb's getting older, and so they're kind of they're fostering his replacement. But both of them are they're mind blowing at the quality of voiceover work and screen presence and delivering their message. They do such a fantastic job.
Mm-hmm.
Gordon, you got any questions for our friend here?
So I think what you're doing is beyond phenomenal, and I used to do a lot of hiking out in Montana back when I was younger, and unfortunately, as an older guy now, I just think back pain. So, man, what you're doing is just incredible work, and I think Don kind of touched on it earlier, but what was the and again, it sounds like when the wheels fall off everything, it's a good time to do something like this. But what was the original start of this whole thought? Is it just and the Walk Across America? Was it something you've seen? Was it something you were influenced by, or was it just like, I need to do something for it? What can I do? And then it just kind of came over time.
Well, yeah, I've always wanted to be a part of something that actually helps people, but I've never had the opportunity or the knowledge to be able to do it. And I was very influenced by by books I read when I was growing up, like a lot of fantasy, like Tolkien and stuff like that. And I don't know, the adventure really spoke out to me. So the way to merge that with a good cause, that's how this really came to be, honestly.
You're walking through Middle Earth right now, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
We said on this podcast many times. As I said earlier, I drove. Well, before I moved to Florida, I actually drove from Ohio to California and back when I was in my early 20s, just as an adventure with my roommate. And then I drove from Ohio to California to live there, and then from California to Florida. But we said on this podcast, if you're in your 20s and you don't have a wife and kids yet, now is the time to travel. These are things that you will never have a second chance to do. And as much fun, as much of an adventure I had driving it, the idea of what you're going to experience walking it is going to be tenfold. And there's going to be times when you're out there and it's going to start raining on you and everything else, and you're going to, this sucks. But I think 2 days later, even, it's going to be early. You're like, the suckiness makes it even more worth it. It makes it all more worthwhile. You got to embrace that suck.
Yeah, I've actually experienced that already.
Yeah.
Like I've had days where I'm like, wow, this is awful. And then I'll get up right in the morning and they're like, oh, I got to get going. I got to keep going. And I think what helps me with that is I really, didn't give myself an out. I didn't go out and buy another car. I quit my job. I left my apartment. The only thing that I've got connecting me back is my family.
Yeah.
So, and I can leave them behind. No, it's like,
well, they'll always be there.
So one thing I was thinking about is I've done my fair share of walking along roads back in my 20s due to, bad cars or whatever. And hopefully it's not as bad as it was in the late 90s and early 2000s, but there are definitely some areas where cigarette butts along the side of a road looks like the shoreline of a lake or an ocean, and the trash, and realizing how dirty people can actually be is a little disheartening,
It is, but then you see I'm seeing all the good out in the world. So the dichotomy is kind of crazy. You do see a lot of the trash, I see needles everywhere, and really? It's bad, but there's still a lot of good in people. So I think you got to take that into account. You know what I mean?
It's part of the balance, right? The compromise, I guess, of humanity.
Well, and with it being COVID, that was the other question I had when I was asking how further south you're coming down. It'll be interesting because you're going to experience firsthand how each state, each city, each municipality handles their COVID policies. You're going to see some where people are super strict. You can't walk in here without a mask. And some are like, okay, come see, come saw. You got your mask, cool. If not, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. And I think that'll be interesting to see too, and how they affect each economy.
I was interested to see that as well. Just in not only in COVID, just a whole bunch of different different cultural, between states, how they do things.
Your regionalisms,
so far, it's all been the same as Connecticut. So as far as COVID and the mask, so you got to wear it when you go in the store and all that.
It'll change when you get to the other side of the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah.
We got 10 minutes left. A couple things. One, the thing I realize, and you're really going to experience this since you're walking it, and it's been a long time since I made that drive, but one thing that'll come out of this for you is whenever you hear people talking about urban sprawl and overpopulation, you're like, there's plenty of middle of nowhere out there. I've seen it. I've been through it.
The thing is, I was saying that before I even had this trip. I was like, America is so huge, there's no way. No way. And then now I'm out here and I'm like, there's nothing out here.
Yeah, there's more nothing than there is population. And once you get out there and the light pollution goes away and the sound of cars go away, you realize I'm out here and I'm on my own.
I tell you once you can really, really see those stars for the first time and the Milky Way, you will be floored.
Oh yeah.
That'll be somewhere in the Midwest, I'm sure, but or down south. Probably out in Texas, to be quite honest. It'll be insane.
One of the other things I've brought up on this podcast, because I'm a street runner. In 2020, even with COVID, I got 550 miles in. I try to do at least 12 to 15 miles a week. And I've said on this podcast many times, a town doesn't become yours until you've walked the streets, you've ran the streets, you've skateboarded on the streets, until you physically walk around your town. You know where the cracks are. You know where everything is. You know, if you can live in a town for 20 years, and if you get up, drive to work, drive to the grocery store, maybe go to a bar, a concert, whatever, drive home, maybe go to City Park, it's your town, but you really don't gain appreciation for it until you've walked the streets or ride bikes for a couple miles or clean up the roads. Until you're physically in your town, in your neighborhood, you don't have that same ownership. And let me tell you, when you're done with this will be your country, because you will know. You will have seen parts of it that no one has seen in years. And trust me, like, I lived in this town since 2005, and I didn't start running until years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago. And I have seen more back areas of this town, and I'm also kayaking now too, because we got like 500 canals down here because we live in a drained swamp. But ever since I started running the streets and now kayaking the canals, I feel like this is more my home and my town than it did the first 10 years I lived here, where I just drove everywhere and went to work and went to school work every day. So you will definitely get the advantage of that. And one last thing, what kind of shoes you wearing, fella?
I am wearing a pair of cheap Skechers. Waterproof.
Really?
We got to get you in some footwear.
Yeah, I'm pretty cheap, you know. So.
Yeah, but see, you got to protect your equipment. One thing when I first talk to people about running, like, I can't run. When I run, I get shin splints or my ankles hurt. It's your shoes. Being 210 pounds and 6'5", like I mentioned earlier, I use that app called Strava, and it'll actually track the mileage I get on my running shoes. I only wear them while I run, and then once they get to 300 miles, then they get busted down to my gym shoes or work shoes. But when they're brand new, I only wear them for running, because I find, because of my height and my weight, that once they get around 250 to 300 miles, which goes quick, I too start getting the shin splints and the knee pains. And so as your adventure continues, and when you start finding feet pain and knee pain and calf pains, you may want to try to upgrade. Maybe plan out a route. And I'll give you a secret: go on Amazon, you can get a pair of good running shoes that are like last year's model. Maybe plan out your route, say, okay, I'll be in this area by Tuesday, and just Amazon Prime your ass some shoes, because you're going to need them after a while, especially walking day in and day out.
I'm sure. I was planning on going through a couple pairs of shoes. So,
yeah.
I was actually going to say, and this is just because I'm in Vegas, we should guess how many pairs of shoes David will go through before this is all done.
I'm going to say, well, it's a couple of thousand miles. I'm serious. I'm going to say 6 or 7 pairs.
I was going to say 5, honestly.
I'm with 5 too.
Yep. So I'm going to say 6 or 7. And that's, you know, a good pair that can hold up to weathering. Once you start getting water, and then depending on how much, like for example, down here,
bushwhacking you may want some boots.
Well, not only that, but for example, down here we live in the seashell capital of the world, off Sanibel Island. So they actually use seashell in our aggregate for our blacktop, and so our tires wear down quicker on our cars down here because of that sharp seashell. And I know in Kentucky and Ohio they use limestone. And so that all, you know, you're walking on concrete and asphalt all day. All that stuff's gonna calculate in, not to mention the heat. You're walking 12, 15 hours on a 90 degree, 110 degree heat, depending on, you know, the time of the year. All that stuff's going to come into play, and you'll find your shoes may break down quicker than you anticipate.
Yeah, I'm sure.
His name's David Post. You can find him on TikTok at Next Outpost. He's walking across the United States to raise money for St. Jude. It's a very good cause. He's just wanting to raise $50,000. Head over to GoFundMe.com and just search for Walk Across America for St. Jude, and then you can also include David Post in there. David, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Enjoy your Airbnb in Pennsylvania. And
thanks for having me.
What time does your morning schedule kick off when you wake up?
Usually around 5. I get my tent set up. So since I don't have to do that, I'll probably be leaving at 5 in the morning. Yeah, 5.
Yeah, I've got to beat that rush hour traffic.
Yeah, exactly.
And for those of you joining us via Facebook and YouTube, you guys know how this works. We're going to take a quick break, and then we will be back with the rest of the podcast. So you guys hang tight, and we'll be back momentarily. And we are back with part 2 of the What's in Your Head podcast. Thank you so much to David Post for joining us. That guy's got a long adventure in front of him.
Yes, he does. I think he's going to be somewhere between 6 and 8 pair before he's done, but we will definitely see.
Well, the other group of people,
It's such a good thing that he's doing.
it is, and it will be life changing and more than one. I mean, yeah, walking, experiencing the idea of raising money, but more importantly, especially since he's relying on devices and there's only so much battery power out there he can rely on. Basically, what it truly means is the amount of time he has to think and to process all the things that he's, these life changes that he's making and what he's doing.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. There's nothing that will make you think more than walking.
Yep. So he's,
and I'm sure he's got a Rand McNally map in there, Atlas in there somewhere, just in case things go south. But no, man, I wish him the best of luck, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him finish this on the West Coast.
yeah, I know the couple who were doing it for, I don't even think they're raising money. I think they were just doing it just to do it. They were going through shoes about every 200 to 300 miles, and they were getting high dollar Hoka shoes, the running shoes that you see people wear, and they were going through those things relatively quick. So that's a lot of walking.
I was thinking back to when I was in Big Sky my first season, and there was some guy from the South. Him and his buddy decided to climb the Spanish Peaks, and he was only wearing Birkenstocks.
That's crazy.
It's insane. It's insane, especially if you see how sharp those rocks are out there, and just you gotta have good footing, you gotta have good ankle support.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're young and dumb, you do some sketchy stuff, and that's funny. You watch these things on TikTok about Gen X, right? And being free range children, the last free range children, and you have to say there's definitely something to it.
How sad is that, though, that we actually have a term called free? We've gone from a society where it was commonplace to lock your kids outside when they weren't in school and let them come back in because there's
we were
garden
told
hoses to drink out of. They'll be all right.
How many times have we been told to go play in traffic?
Yeah.
Seriously.
So we went from a society where it was commonplace to lock your kids outside to now where we have phrases as free range kids and free range parents. That is an indicator, ladies and gentlemen, of how things have changed dramatically.
It is, and how soft we're getting. But nah, man, this young man, he's definitely not going to softer out of life. That is fantastic.
Yeah, and I definitely think he's going to find out through first-person experiences that things are nowhere as divided, especially in the real world, as far as how people treat each other, as the mainstream media want you to believe.
If people would only realize the news is using them to make money, because the type of people that's really up in arms these days are those who really are kind of against people making money. Mm-hmm. So if they realize their cause celeb or their cause du jour, or at least of the last year, is just they're being used for it, I think there's going to be a pushback. I
love the fact that within his first week, as soon as he gets out of Connecticut, there's people plinking in their backyard. I love that. It's like
teaching kids how to handle guns.
Welcome to free America.
The question is was he walking alongside or was he on the opposite end of their plinking?
I don't know. I put out a TikTok because I had a thought last night when we were eating Pizza Hut pizza. And I kind of came up with I don't know if it's an epiphany so much, but I'm 42. We grew up, I was born in 79, we grew up in the 80s, early 90s. And if you think about it, the fast food industry is relatively young, right?
You know what's sad? Is I'm closer to 50 than you are to 45.
Yeah.
I will be anyway this year. About the same, I guess. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm just trying to pull up. Okay, so McDonald's was founded in 1940, but really didn't get mainstream until I think, 55, 50s?
Probably the 60s, I'm thinking.
Yeah, so yeah. Big Mac came out in the early 70s. So if we think about it, if we say that fast food as we know it really started to birth its industry in the mid-60s, early 70s, it's not that, it's 40-ish years old, right? And so you and I grew up around the industry growing up.
Correct.
And the only way you can create an industry and have a foundation is through quality of services and quality of customer support, right? And I had a realization that maybe the reason we're so disappointed with fast food nowadays is because we grew up in the time that they were trying to impress the nation with their goods, their services, and trying to build an industry.
You mean before they turned into cafeteria food?
Well, I had Pizza Hut last night, and I used to love Pizza Hut. I worked at Pizza Hut. Worked there it was like one of my first jobs. Used to fill the pans every night, put the dough in it. Had so much oil that my forehead would break out from my hat. I'd have zits all over the place. And the last few times, like for example, I used to make the breadsticks, right?
Mm-hmm.
You ever notice back in the day the breadsticks never had a universal shape to them? That's because
You mean that is basically cut up pizza dough?
Well, because, yeah, we would just pound out pizza dough. It was a blob, and you would just cut it up, right?
Mm.
I got my breadsticks last night. They were a perfect square,
Mm-hmm.
and they had lines, but they weren't cut all the way through. This tells me that they came frozen, pre-configured, and or they sat up. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they just sat up in a pan overnight, right? Maybe they were in a pan. That's why they're perfectly square. But even the pan pizza, it didn't taste like the Pizza Hut we grew up with. It sure as shit didn't taste like the Pizza Hut I used to serve. And I got to thinking two things. One, obviously, with inflation, in order to keep prices down as low as they possibly can, they got to use cheaper ingredients. They water down the spaghetti sauce. It's probably not the same quality cheese they used to use, not same quality pepperoni sausage, etc. That's one theory. Then the other theory is what the hell was that?
Sorry, I failed.
Didn't turn off your phone. And the other theory is, have we gotten to that point now that we're 40 years into this that they're kind of resting on their laurels? They know, hey, we're McDonald's, we're Wendy's, we're Burger King, we're Pizza Hut, we're the standard. Where else are you going to go?
And maybe
The quality's gone down due to cost and the fact that they're resting on their laurels. Hey, this is who we are. Where else are you going to go?
Or is it a little bit of both? That and the only reason I'm going to say this is our parents' cooking isn't what we remember. Is it that maybe our tastes have changed and has gotten a little more sophisticated also?
That definitely can be, but like we explained last week in great detail, and you've experienced it with your TikTok you put up, I wasn't lying about that Wendy's chicken sandwich.
First Wendy's chicken sandwich I've had in 6 months. And
It's on
so
par
I did
with a
little
McDonald's
research
McChicken, right?
Yeah, so I did a little research because it was real thin. I mean, it sort of had
It's
the
like
chicken
a Tyson's chicken patty you get out of the frozen section
Yeah.
at your grocery store. It's not.
Now, I did break it open, and I did see some shape of muscle fibers, but I decided to do some research, and I found a Wall Street Journal article from 2017, and this is the kicker that said Wendy's was planning on spending $30 million to shrink the size of its chicken sandwiches because people were complaining that their meat was too rubbery, which made me think, did they change their cooking method? Did the quality of chicken they bought go down?
It has to.
Because I tell you, man, that chicken fresh out of a Henny Penny fry, maybe that was it. Maybe their chicken was actually just sitting in the warmer too long. Was second to none. I mean, the Henny Penny fryer is pretty much the same type of fryer that Chick-fil-A uses.
I would be interested. I don't know if I could actually make this work. Here's a homework assignment. You and I should call our local Wendy's and see if we can get a tour.
Oh, speaking of that, remember that call I made to the Wendy's corporate about them sitting on their timer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they quit doing that. Now they are like, they're not holding people. They're only taking the money at one window, and people are just sitting there on the timer.
I got this on video today. I haven't done anything with it. I went to Wendy's today. Only got 2 junior bacon cheeseburgers. And I'm sitting at the sign waiting to order. And just like you said, I noticed a car in front of me is at the second window getting their food. And it wasn't until she pulled off. Thank you for calling Wendy's. Thank you for coming to Wendy's. Can I take your order, please? Put an order.
I would have been, hey, can you all put a timer on this sign?
Worse. I pulled up, got my food. I sat there, started eating it.
Sir, I need you to move.
Got about 4 bites into it. He opens the window. He's like, "How's the hamburger?" I was like, "Pretty good." And then the car behind me started pulling up. I said, "Don't worry about me. I'm just sitting here because I'm not going to participate in your timer scam." I said, "I know what you're doing. I was just adding some time to your timer. Have a nice day." And I pulled off. I sat there and began eating my food. I told myself, I'm going to start eating.
Did you video this?
Yeah.
Good.
And I said, I'm going to start eating, and I'm not going to pull up until that car behind me starts pulling up. And I have it. Oh, here we go. It's only, here, I'll just play it for you so you can hear. Let me fast forward to my, okay. So I'm at the sign. No, I'm at the window waiting to get my food. Great pot, I know, but anyhow. Still waiting to get my food. We'll fast forward a bit.
You may want
Fast
to
forward
flip
a
that to
bit.
the other side of your mic.
Fast forward a bit. Still waiting on my food. So now I'm opening my cheeseburger. I'm eating it.
You're just taking your time. Is that
Watching
the
the,
first bite?
watching the rearview mirror.
Second bite?
Second and third bite.
How is it?
Good. I'm just not participating in your timer game, so I was just running up your timer until the next guy
That's
came
all
up.
right.
Then I pulled off because the car pulled out. He's like, "Oh, that's all right."
Now, was that a manager or was that just a regular employee?
I was a regular employee. But I've told him that before. I'm not.
So they know you. That's your local.
Yeah, but then we got 4 or 5 of them around here. I've done that at a few of them. But yeah, it's just. But no, it's funny that you mentioned it. But anyhow, back to the chicken thing. Yeah, it's rubbery and it's just, I don't know.
They've not only lost the battle, they're losing the war.
But are they though? Because we're all old. We prefer to cook at home now. The new generation, they don't know what they're missing out because, my daughter thinks McDonald's is the greatest thing in the world. But when's the last time
It's almost like a gas station spicy chicken sandwich now.
Not even just spice, just everything, all of it. I went to KFC the other day, and they've only been open for an hour, but the chicken strips look like they've been sitting under the lamp, not because they had, but probably because it had been a week and a half since they changed their fry oil.
Hey, Timmy, rewarm those chicken strips up from yesterday.
Either that or they just don't change the oil and to keep the quality good. But, and the good thing maybe is the fact that it just reinforces why we should all be cooking at home. Stop going there and we won't be disappointed, right?
So the state of Nevada is doing something good on the unemployment front. They are now requiring people to prove that they've been looking for a job.
See, I was talking to somebody this the other day.
That was gone.
Thank you. I'm glad you mentioned it because I've been doing some Ubering on the side to make a little extra cash. And I picked up a cat who was working down. He was just got off.
Don't make too much money. It may ruin your brand for being broke.
Well, it ain't making that much money. But anyhow, I picked this cat up. He worked down at the bar, the pier restaurant down at the Cape Coral Yacht Club, which is owned by the city.
Okay.
And I said, "Were you closed down most of last year because it's a city-owned property?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "How bad did that hurt you?" He said,
I
"Man,
made more money.
I was making $1,000 a week on unemployment." I said, "Yeah,
He didn't want to go back to work, did he?
that's why no one wants to work now." But by the way, I just got my letter in the mail today saying that I should be seeing my next round of COVID money coming here soon. So look in the mail
What,
for your,
there's more COVID money?
they passed it in March 11th, I think. I
thought
just
that we already got. Oh, is that your PPP?
no. If you want to hold the microphone, I'll go grab my letter. I think it's in the trash can. Talk to
That's
the audience.
interesting. I had we received our last round of stimulus money recently, and I didn't think there was any more. But hey, whatever. Just keep wasting money. Government. That's okay. If I get any more, I'll buy more firearms because, Biden will love it. And that's what I suggest. Anybody who gets their stimulus money and you really don't need it to get by, go buy yourself some ammunition. Go buy yourself some firearms. Maybe some accessories. Maybe get some of those pistol braces and get yourself an AR pistol. Yeah, I think that's what we should do, just to prove a point. Let's continue to make those gun sales go up via the stimulus money. Say, hey, Biden, thank you for the money. I'm buying guns. I think that's what we all should do.
Notice date, April 19th, 2021. What's today? May 1st?
I never even received one of them letters.
This
ever.
just came in the mail either today or a day or so.
Is that a legit one?
The white, yeah, because the last time I got one of these, I misread it. But
See,
yeah,
I never got
one
of those.
before the last check. Notice date, April 19th, 2020. Notice number 1444C. English on one side, Spanish on the other.
So how many have you received so far?
Of these letters,
How many checks?
every one of them, three
Three?
or four of them.
3? Okay.
Mr. Abernathy, very official. It says the White House at the top. The White House, Washington. My fellow American. I guess if I want to read this accurately, I got to be fuddled and read it like I normally would read. To sound like the president, but anyhow. My fellow American, on March 11th, 2021, I signed into law the American Rescue Plan, a law that will help vaccinated Americans and deliver immediate economic relief to hundreds of millions of Americans, including you. A key part of the American Rescue Plan is a direct payment of $1,400 per person for most American households. With a $600 direct payment from December, this brings the total relief payment to $2,000.
Reread that last 2 sentences again.
A key part of the American Rescue Plan is a direct payment of $1,400 per person for most American households. With a $600 direct payment from December, this will bring your total relief payment up to $2,000 to fulfill this promise I made to you. And this will help get millions of Americans through this crisis. I am pleased to inform you that because the American Rescue Plan, a direct payment of $1,400 was issued to you by direct deposit, blah, 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 blah. This may be... See, and this is where it gets confusing because it makes reference to the last one, right?
Yes, and that's what I'm going to go into the news story I just
Because,
pushed.
well, the one I got last time said the same thing, and I thought it was basically telling me I was going to have to pay taxes on it, but then I got another deposit. So does this mean another deposit's coming, or is this just...
It's a push. So according, and this is today's date, CBS News, what's behind the push for the 4th stimulus check? The IRS has issued some 161 million payments in the 3rd round of direct stimulus aid, with 2 million people this week in line to receive 1,400 checks, or $1,400 checks. But some lawmakers are pushing a 4th round of stimulus aid that would effectively send recurring payments until the pandemic ends. So far, so this is going to keep people from wanting to work.
Mm-hmm.
So far, the federal response to the economic caused by the pandemic has delivered about $3,200 to each eligible adult, and $1,200 via coronavirus aid. See March 20th, March 2020, 600 in debt relief.
Here you go. Hold on, not to cut you off. So this says April 19th, right? If you haven't received your payment within 7 days of receiving this letter, so yes, according to this letter, within 7 days from today, which I got this, I should be getting another $1,400, which means so should everybody else.
I don't like it. And I know that's going to make me sound cold-hearted, but at one point the madness has got to end.
Yep.
We need to spend money in better places. But if I do get it, as I was saying while you were gone, I'm buying more firearms. There you go, buddy.
Yeah, and so it says right here, I am pleased to inform you that because of the American Rescue Plan, a direct payment of $1,400 was issued to you by direct deposit. If you haven't received the payment within 7 days of receiving this letter, which I haven't because I checked today, please check on the status of payment by visiting the IRS website or calling the IRS phone number listed at the bottom of this letter.
So you got to go to where's my stimulus check?
Yeah, you got to go to learn more about this law and how it will work for you. Please visit wh.gov/ARP.
I would double check that because it should be the irs.gov website.
Well, that's on how to see how this law will help benefit me.
Okay, so they're just
signed President Joseph R. Biden Jr. Yeah.
So it's a little. It's what it is. It's getting us closer to that universal basic income.
Yep, and that's the plan.
Which, I tell you what, if you could make more money than you currently make now, would it drive you to work more? Or would you, I mean, you're a different person. You're like me. You probably will keep working. But how many people will just say, you know what? I'm retired.
You know how I knew socialism wouldn't work?
Just look at history.
No, way before then. Because I thought I came up with it in 3rd grade. We have financial disparities in our family and where we grew up, right?
Yeah.
And I remember in 3rd grade laying in bed saying, why can't everybody just have whatever job they want and they all get paid the same? So the fact that a 3rd grader thought of this wonderful utopia just proves it doesn't work.
Well, there is a certain group of people who say, do not forget about the wisdom of children.
How many stories have you read where you got the guy hiking up the mountain, with the exception of the Golden Child? But the point being is most wise men, it's a wise old man because wisdom comes through experience. Very
Infinite, except for the Golden Child.
with the exception of the Buddhist Golden Child and every other story and every other culture, wisdom is the old man or old woman because they have life experience.
So not some toddler with snot running down his nose.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Remember the concerns of the helium crisis?
Yes.
Helium was on shortage. Helium is a non-renewable resource.
Which was funny because it is the most abundant noble gas in the universe.
What happened to that shortage?
I want to let you know here.
Well, guess what
Keep
I just
on
saw?
talking.
We need good crisis, right? The media needs a good crisis.
Well, right now it's COVID, but yeah.
Well, COVID's kind of starting to die, right?
Oh, there's an
A
article.
major chlorine shortage is set to spoil summertime fun for swimming pools. So this is the new crisis and shortage. We went from helium to no more kids' parties and heart surgeries. Now, according to MSN, a major chlorine shortage is set to spoil summertime fun in swimming pools.
Oh, well, wait, before we move on to that, let me do a quick update. Is there still a helium shortage in 2021? According to this article from Physics Today, there is the current supply situation, he says, is between ample and plentiful.
Well, what happened?
Unlike last year when some scientists were forced to shut down their superconducting magnets for lack of helium, researchers now report that they have no trouble getting helium.
But if it's a non-renewable resource and Party City's still selling balloons, where did all the extra helium come from?
Well, they're blaming that the original shortage was caused by the U.S. monopoly on helium, which caused the shortage.
Oh, wait a minute. Trump was in office. That's why there was a helium shortage.
Everybody was talking funny just so they could deal with him, I guess. Forcing others to turn to using highly flammable hydrogen for their lifting gas. But today the Bureau of
That
Land
worked out so well for the Hindenburg.
Yeah, so it's not a problem right now.
We talked about this on the current episode of the What's the Scuttlebutt podcast, and apparently in Texas in the 90s they didn't commit in this atrocity to the environment that we did in Northern Kentucky, and I know you remember this.
Oh, speaking of that, we just had a power outage yesterday of about 10,000 people because of a Mylar balloon.
Not Mylar. Remember when we were in elementary school? I think we did this in Ohio too. It was very big in the late 70s and early 80s. What you do, kids, because we didn't care about the environment or concern ourselves with, even though we had Woodsy the Owl and the aforementioned Smokey the Bear.
And the Native American paddling down the river.
This went on for years, and I don't know who thought of this, but for those of you who are young, check out this atrocity and raping of the environment. Someone thought it'd be a great idea every year to get, it was probably the 4th grade class, maybe, or it could be the entire school. Let's say the entire school, a couple hundred kids. What you do see is you get some balloons and fill them up with helium. And then you get yourself a 4x5 flashcard and you write the address of your school and the student's name on it, and you tie it to said balloon. And then all the kids would go out on the field, and on the count of 3, they would release all these rubber balloons and helium into the atmosphere. The goal being whoever's balloon traveled the furthest and someone found it, probably in their cornfield, because it was Kentucky, and they actually took the time to mail back the 4x5 flash card with the return address. The kids whose card went the furthest and came back won a prize. This was something we did like multiple years. Did your class do that at all?
Yes, they did. And I've actually pulled up a quick article by Gen Xer Jennifer. It's called the Jennifer Chronicles. And it says, in 1983, students released balloons with messages. I'm going to live my life like every day's the last without a simple goodbye. And it all goes fast. And that's a quote by the Williams brothers in 1991. According to this lady, twice during my childhood, I released balloons with messages. My classmates and I wrote the messages on a small piece of paper and tied them to a balloon before releasing them to the heavens. Unfortunately, I can't remember exactly what I wrote, but I recall believing my message would change someone's life.
Yeah, like the duck who ate it and died.
For years, I wondered who received my magical spiritual balloon. I was sad to let it go. But more than keeping it, I wanted my message to change the world. So remember, this is back in We Are the World times.
Hands Across America, speaking of David posting Balloon Across America.
We need more stuff like that and less of this BLM garbage. I was hopeful like that.
Well, minus the destruction environment with our balloons.
Oh, I'm talking more like Hands Across America.
I got you.
Always beautiful as a child. So, yes, it was a thing in the 80s. Don't know what stopped it.
Because people realized half those balloons went 3.5 blocks away and ended up in the woods, creeks, natural environments for woodland animals, and probably caused more pollution than any good to ever to come out of it.
Yep.
I'm sure there's so many farms around northern Kentucky and Ohio that just had balloons stuck in their trees and their corn crop and everywhere. A couple hundred balloons twice a year. Come on.
Now, one of the things you do see here once a year down at the Jean Dry Lake beds, or near where we go shooting, is they'll get hundreds of people together to light these lanterns that go up in the sky. And the question is, well, I'm in a desert and shit's going to burn down. Are those flames actually out before they hit the ground?
And I think you can do research. There is a website that where all the reports of aliens are sent, and a lot of times there's a direct correlation due to parties and releasing of the Chinese candles with mass reporting of unidentified flying objects in the sky.
Well, according to balloonsblow.org, and that's balloons blow, don't let them go, there are some mass balloon laws. Mass balloon releases are illegal in several states, cities, and countries. Releasing balloons and sky lanterns should be illegal everywhere because, after all, it is simply littering. And I'm with that. U.S. states that have laws: California, Connecticut, Florida, Tennessee, and Virginia. U.S. cities that have law: Huntsville, Alabama, San Francisco, Louisville, Ocean City, Queens Anne County, and Williamco County in Maryland. Massachusetts has got a grip of them. So there's actually some laws going through. And, of course, California's got a great big penal code on this.
As they should.
Florida does not recognize any balloons as biodegradable.
No, as someone who kayaks around here, I
100%.
see them all over the place in the canals. But back to the previous story. A major chlorine shortage is set to spoil summertime fun for
Saw that
swimming
this
pool.
morning.
The very first sentence, the worst chlorine shortage the country has ever seen, will set to rock this summer's pool season. Quote, "It's been concern for us," said Cody Saluwit, owner of Texas Pool Professionals, which has been in the business for 17 years. The Rockwall, Texas-based company services 200 clients weekly. And Salerte, we'll just call him, said that he's recently began stockpiling chlorine tablets. He's also been looking into different chemicals to keep the pool sanitized for his customers to be happy. Quote, "We're looking for anything that we can get that we don't have to, God, I suck. Quote, "We are looking for anything we can get that we don't have here in North Texas," he said. "We've been to about 6 states and 15 cities for supplies." Here's a thought. Maybe it's time for people to start converting to salt water.
Absolutely. So, you ready for the news?
Yep, hold on. The chlorine shortage has been widespread and is likely to get worse, driving chlorine prices even higher, just like plywood and everything else. And
Well, yeah, plastic's so bad now that the one dog food our dog likes so can't find anymore because they can't get the plastic containers.
Whatever happened to good old soup cans?
I think we're going to see a resurrection of glass,
Yep.
which will
Well-
be better for us all.
Yes and no, because I was watching something. Oh, I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about how the sands that are used for creating pure glass is starting to become a shortage, and in 40 to 50 years we'll actually have a shortage of glass because of the sands that we use for. Oh, that's what it was. When I was watching that show Blown Away on Netflix, it's that competition
Glass
show
blowing show.
about glass blowing. They mentioned that in the future they're going to have issues with finding the materials needed for blowing pure glass.
Joining us now from the Digital 410 West News Desk in Las Vegas, Nevada, Gordon Abernathy.
Gordon, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, but probably not as good as the people of New York.
When
And
are
in
they
a
ever doing
rough-
good?
In an abrupt about face in an acceleration of efforts to reopen New York, one guy who's on the ropes, one guy who's in a lot of trouble. Governor Andrew Cuomo announced Monday that they will be lifting all of the state's capacity restrictions by May 19th.
Too little,
In
too late.
In restaurants, concert halls, bars, museums, and theaters, including Broadway. The swiftness of the governor's timetable stunned the arts community,
The fact that they're
much of which has been operating under the assumption that controls will remain in effect for several more months. Still, as far as the industry such as Broadway is concerned, the May date bears no relationship to reopening in reality.
It's absurd.
Which even Cuomo, a Democrat, acknowledged at his Albany news conference on Monday. It'll take a number of months to get productions in shape for normal running schedules. Early fall has been widely discussed and will probably be when they actually get up and running. But yes,
Or
it's
you can
kind
just say, hey, you're open now. Get started tomorrow.
it's sort of like Newsom. He's been on the ropes. He's in a recall, which,
Mhm.
by the way, thank you, Caitlyn Jenner, for saying, hey, transsexual boys born or transsexuals born as biological boys, it is unfair for you to compete against women in women's sports.
That's going to put California in a pickle if she runs for governor.
Yeah, quite literally. But
Well, no, literally, because
yeah,
as we know, and anybody, especially if you watch TikTok, your race, your sexual identification doesn't matter if you're a conservative or a Republican.
and now if you are against somebody who's transsexual, doesn't that make you a bigot?
Not if that person is a conservative. Just like if they're black, they don't count.
That's just insane.
Yep. So it'll put them in a pickle.
The states of Nevada and California have recreational marijuana.
Okay.
Why is it that rangers find marijuana grow in Death Valley National Park?
I would just,
What would be the point of growing illegal marijuana?
because it's cheaper than paying at super inflated tax prices.
Is it safe?
Well, I know it
and
may.
then it's Death Valley too.
I don't know if
come
it's
on.
safe, but I know down here from talking to people, like to get your medical marijuana card, you got to pay like $236 every 6 months to maintain it.
That's why they have recreational. You don't have to worry about that. Anyway, Death Valley Federal Park rangers have discovered a large illegal marijuana grow in Death Valley National Park near the border between California and Nevada. Authorities said Friday that the 40-acre, let me repeat that number again, 40 acres grow was found in a place, funnily enough, called Jail Canyon, a rarely visited part of the canyon located on the western side of the Panamint Mountains. The illegal grow is one of hundreds that authorities have found in Death Valley over the last decade. Marijuana grow sites can damage or destroy parts of the national park. While California legalized marijuana in 2016, it remains prohibited on federal lands. And as we know, Death Valley is located roughly 200 miles northeast of Los Angeles, and kind of the same northwest of Vegas.
Speaking of which, as we spoke last week, Bailey got a boo-boo on her head and they had to give her some strong medicines, right?
Bailey Boo Boo.
I don't know what's in this medicine, but now when she farts, it smells like someone's got a bud in their pocket in my bed. Her farts literally smell like
Little skunky.
a
are
bud.
they?
It's
Interesting.
I don't know what the hell's in this medication they got her on, but it smells like somebody has a baggie in their pocket laying in my bed. It's insane.
So the next story, we've seen stories about toddlers falling in wells and other places.
With baby
But in
Jessica.
But in Tennessee, and this may hurt you a little bit, a toddler was freed from an antique wood barrel.
Damn Jack
Portland,
Daniels.
Tennessee, not to be confused with Portland, Oregon. Fire rescuers, and medical staff. Jesus, he must have drank too much. Used a power saw and screwdrivers to extract the toddler from an antique wooden barrel.
He started to
Which he
power
be-
saw me.
Yeah, which he become wedged during a visit with his grandparents. One Kelly Struben and her husband took their 2-year-old son Dorian to the emergency room after he got stuck on Saturday. So I'm thinking he's still stuck in the barrel, and they just took the whole kit and caboodle in. Sumner County Emergency Medical System and Portland Fire Department worked
I wonder if they had the
With
bomb hole
hospital
open or
staff.
not.
to free the boy. X-rays determined where his hips and knees and feet were. So imagine setting up a kid in a barrel through an X-ray machine.
What was that song? Head, toes, knee,
Head, toes, knees, and
head,
nose.
shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes, head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes.
From what Struben told the station, his arms and shoulders and head stuck out of the top of the barrel, which allowed him to hold onto a teddy bear. So you got the little kid stuck in the barrel with his teddy bear.
Mhm.
Workers used a power saw to cut some of the wood from the bottom of the barrel, and screwdrivers were used to chip away the top opening to make the hole big enough for his feet to fit through. First responders pulled the toddler out through the top of the barrel once his legs were straightened. So yes, and you're wondering, why are you telling us such a silly story? Because as we all know, the world is on fire.
Well, I thought, now, I guess it depends on the quality of barrel, but most vintage barrels, the rings do not have any, just about all barrels for that matter, don't have any sort of fastener on them, because then it would puncture the wood and creating a leak.
It's pressure, right?
So all they would tend to do is just get a mallet and a chisel and knock the rings off, and the whole thing would just opened up.
Yep. So now we're going to move on to the great town of Naples, Florida.
Nepal.
Remind me of that Jordash thing I saw. Jordy Ash.
Yeah, people are losing their shit. And I have a feeling that chick's just trolling people, and it's working.
It is working. So a man was moving from Alabama to Southwest Florida, traveled hundreds of miles with an owl stuck in his truck's grill.
Oh, damn.
The owl did survive. Tory Gray, he said he saw a vehicle ahead of him swerve on Interstate 75 to avoid the great horned owl. But somehow he hit it and it became lodged in the truck. Speaking of which, I had to pull a dead pigeon out of my wife's Subaru at one point in time.
Sucks.
Gray said that he wasn't aware of the situation until he got to Naples, where he planned to live. Gray said that he saw the damage to his vehicle on the owl inside, but he wasn't sure if it was still alive. Gray called the Conservancy of Southwest Florida.
Crow.
You may know who they are.
Yep, used to do
Which
work
sent
for
a-
him.
Which is that also known as Crow?
Yep.
Which sent a volunteer to help dislodge the bird. Eventually they did. Both men marveled at how the owl was in a good shape. Gray said the bird did more damage to the truck than to itself.
All them feathers.
All them feathers. And then one last thing. You've been to an airport a few times.
Yep.
You ever wonder what it'd like to take a ride on a conveyor belt?
No, not enough to do it.
In Minneapolis, this 9-year-old boy found out.
Yeah.
He found his way onto the conveyor belt, a baggage handling system in the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. Surprised that hasn't burned down yet. And was not injured, which is good. Because I remember seeing some of those metal things coming together. I'm like, oh, that's like knives.
Mm-hmm.
Airport spokesperson, Pat Hogan. Pat. Thinking of the Pat spokesperson. Anyway,
It's Pat.
said the incident happened
Ooh,
early
the Saturday Night
Saturday
Live
afternoon.
probably couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah. I'm surprised that hasn't been canceled because of that show. Saturday afternoon, as a group of about 20 people were checking their bags for a trip they were taking. Hogan said initially no one in the group noticed the boy was missing, according to Minnesota Public Radio News. This was there was a lot of confusion because there was so many people in the group. They're all checking their bags, putting their bags on, and the kid decided to go for a ride. The police did find the boy in about 5 minutes, and I'm sure he had a stern talking to, but he was unharmed, and I'm sure he had a hell of a good time, to be quite honest. And that is the news.
This concludes the evening news, and now back to the Axe Computer Studio in Cape Coral, Florida.
I had 2 sound effects running on the same board, so the volume sucked. Those of you who heard me on the Stan Haney show last Friday complaining about my trash not being picked up for 8 days. Well, one, my trash finally got picked up Saturday. Actually, 14 days, but my trash got picked up Saturday. But 2, you heard me talking, busting Junior's balls about TikTok. And asked him if you follow me on TikTok and how I'm trying to get to 10,000 followers. Well, apparently today, Junior decided that he is going to get on TikTok, and he has told me that he'll have over 10,000 followers by the end of the week. Which I say, ha.
Oh, the gauntlet has been laid, huh?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, this will be interesting to see. But, yeah, don't let Junior think that he can beat me in the TikTok realm. So if you guys want to head over to TikTok and search for me at Donovan410, or just go to d-410.com and click on the link that says social, and you can find all of our links there. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the What's in Your Head podcast. I have to leave, which is why I haven't been drinking. I got to go to the shop and get a hard drive because I brought the computer home to work on. I brought the CD that I need to copy said hard drive to on the computer, but I forgot the damn hard drive. So now I got to leave my office,
Simpson.
head down to At Computers, pick up the hard drive, come back, and work on that here tonight, which is why I haven't been drinking during the show. But anyhow, thank you guys so much, and as always, please head over to d-410.com. If you want to support the show, click on the Patreon link and buy some t-shirts and all that good stuff, and we will talk to you all next week.